The night was supposed to be a celebration. Lights blazing, cameras flashing, the golden glow of Hollywood's most prestigious awards casting a warm shimmer over the red carpet. Celebrities glided past in gowns and tuxedos, smiling, waving, posing. But one woman, arguably one of the most famous figures in the world, was suddenly stopped, denied, uninvited. Imagine that for a moment. You've been to every major premiere, walked countless red carpets, graced the covers of magazines, and suddenly, the door doesn't open for you. That was Meghan Markle on the night of the 2025 Golden Globe Awards. And the story of what unfolded is more shocking than any headline, more dramatic than any scripted film, and yet completely real. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It began like any other Hollywood evening. The air was crisp with winter chill, but the tension on the red carpet was hotter than the flashing bulbs of the photographers' cameras. Inside, whispers traveled faster than the guests could move. Who had arrived? Who was fashionably late? Which stars were causing gossip already? But outside, a storm was quietly building, a storm centered around Meghan Markle. The world would soon see her stopped at the threshold of an event that should have been hers to enter. She approached the velvet rope, her posture straight, her expression composed yet purposeful. Every step she took was filmed, every glance captured. Reporters had been anticipating her arrival for months. And yet, as she reached the security checkpoint, a surprising barrier emerged. Not a literal barrier at first, but one far more humiliating. Resistance from the very people assigned to protect the event's order. Security personnel exchanged quick whispers, eyes darting nervously, radios crackling. And then came the words that no one expected, least of all her. "I'm sorry, ma'am. You cannot enter. You're not on the list." For a moment, time seemed to stop. Camera flashes froze mid-burst. Journalists lowered their microphones in disbelief. The people who had smiled, waved, and whispered about her mere moments ago now stared, mouths slightly agape. How could this happen? How could someone so public, so influential, so recognized, be barred from a major Hollywood event? And that is the first question you have to ask yourself. Was this a simple mistake, an administrative oversight, or a calculated snub meant to send a message? The answer, as it would unfold, was more layered, more entangled than anyone could imagine. Meghan's fury in that moment was palpable, not the kind of polite frustration that could be brushed aside, but an anger that radiated, undeniable and electric, toward the men and women who dared prevent her from walking the red carpet. Her public persona, so carefully curated over years of media scrutiny, suddenly collided with a raw, human vulnerability, the sting of rejection in the most visible place possible. But the story doesn't stop there. Because when Meghan was denied entry, it wasn't just a personal affront, it was a spectacle. The cameras captured every second, and social media exploded within minutes. Live feeds cut to the scene, commentators whispered speculations, fans tweeted outrage, and critics gleefully dissected every detail. By the time she turned away, it seemed as though the entire world had witnessed her humiliation. And yet, even as the public formed opinions, rumors began to swirl. Rumors of hidden politics, of deliberate exclusion, of Hollywood insiders wanting to assert control, of personal vendettas disguised as procedural formality. You might be asking yourself, why now? Why did this happen at the 2025 Golden Globes, of all places? After all, Meghan had been a presence on red carpets for years, celebrated for her fashion, her poise, and her accomplishments in Hollywood and beyond. What changed? The answer, as insiders would later reveal, involved a combination of Hollywood politics, personal rivalries, and the very real anxiety of the Golden Globes organizers. They feared the unpredictability of a public figure who had repeatedly broken the mold, challenged the status quo, and commanded attention wherever she went. And in that fear, a decision was made, one that would ripple across the media landscape and forever mark this particular awards night as infamous. The build-up to this moment was almost cinematic. Meghan had been traveling in a sleek black SUV, paparazzi trailing in a frenzy, her security detail coordinating every movement with precision. Yet despite all the preparation, despite the careful planning, the moment she reached the entrance, everything unraveled. There were no apologies, no polite escorts to a back door. Just the blunt refusal, the abrupt denial. Imagine the scene. Lights, cameras, the expectation of glamour. And then, a door closed in your face. The contrast was brutal. And it was this contrast that made the night unforgettable, not just for Meghan, but for everyone watching. And yet, her reaction wasn't purely anger. There was a flicker of disbelief, of questioning, of scanning the crowd for allies. Did anyone here understand what was happening? Was anyone aware of the humiliation she faced? For those who have watched Meghan's journey, from her acting career to the royal spotlight, this moment represented a unique collision of public scrutiny and personal indignity. The woman who had faced relentless media attention, who had navigated every conceivable scandal with poise, was suddenly forced into a role she had never anticipated. The uninvited guest, the outsider at an event built for stars. But perhaps the most shocking part of this story isn't just that she was denied entry. It's what came after. Because Meghan Markle is not someone who quietly accepts exclusion. Her response, both in that moment and in the hours and days that followed, would ignite a media firestorm. Statements were leaked. Sources whispered. Social media erupted. And through it all, one question lingered in the minds of millions. Was this an isolated incident, or the beginning of a larger, orchestrated snub? The world would soon learn that the Golden Globes, despite their glamour and prestige, are a stage not just for recognition, but for power plays. Names whispered behind closed doors, invitations sent or withheld with precision, alliances formed and broken in silence. This is the hidden machinery of Hollywood's elite. And Meghan, intentionally or not, had just stumbled into it. In the immediate aftermath, as the night unfolded, every celebrity on the red carpet suddenly became part of the story, whether they realized it or not. Was anyone sympathetic? Did anyone publicly acknowledge what had happened? Or did the spectacle overshadow every other narrative of the evening? And more importantly, how would Meghan respond? Not just for that night, but in the days that would follow when headlines exploded and public opinion began to shape itself. And here's where it gets even more intriguing. Insiders hinted at motivations that went far beyond a simple administrative error. Some suggested personal grudges among organizers. Others whispered about tensions with powerful figures in Hollywood who felt threatened by Meghan's influence. There were even claims that the decision was partially influenced by media outlets eager for controversy, knowing that public outrage would guarantee endless coverage. And as the story spread, it became clear that the 2025 Golden Globe Awards would be remembered less for the winners and more for the woman who couldn't get past the front door. So, the question remains, what would Meghan do next? Would she retreat quietly, accept the snub, and move on, as many might expect from a public figure of her stature? Or would she turn the situation into something far bigger, far more dramatic, and far more public than anyone could anticipate? The answer, as you will soon see, is both shocking and revealing. By now, the cameras have moved on to other guests, flashing lights chasing the next star, but the story of Meghan Markle's denial is only beginning. The humiliation, the fury, the confusion, it is a drama that unfolds not just in one moment, but across hours, days, and weeks. And in the shadows, behind closed doors, the real story is brewing. The politics, the power plays, and the whispers of revenge that will define the narrative of Hollywood's most talked about uninvited guest. The Golden Globe Awards are more than just an evening of glamour. They are a theater of power, influence, and unspoken rules that govern Hollywood. For many, the red carpet is a celebration of artistry, of films and performances that have moved audiences worldwide. But for insiders, for those who know the unspoken rules, the Golden Globes are also a battlefield. Every step on that red carpet is scrutinized. Every handshake is a negotiation. Every smile, every nod, every glance carries meaning. And on the night of the 2025 Golden Globes, Meghan Markle was about to step onto that battlefield, completely unprepared for what awaited her. It all began weeks before the actual event. The Golden Globes organizers, a group of seasoned professionals, were meticulously finalizing the guest list. Invitations were sent out with precision, and each guest was carefully considered. Who could be included without rocking the delicate balance of Hollywood politics? Who could walk the red carpet without drawing unwanted attention? And, most importantly, who would enhance the prestige of the event versus who might threaten it? For someone like Meghan, whose presence could command headlines by simply arriving, the calculus was complicated. Inside the organizers' offices, decisions were being made quietly. Lists were checked and double-checked. Security protocols were reviewed. Every detail mattered. There were whispers about which celebrities might arrive late, who would bring dates, which outfits were likely to attract photographers' attention, and even which social media posts might precede the event. It was a world where precision and perception were intertwined, and the wrong move could have ripple effects far beyond the night itself. Meanwhile, Meghan was preparing for the evening in her own way. Her stylists, assistants, and public relations team had coordinated for weeks to ensure that every detail of her appearance would be perfect. Hair, makeup, wardrobe, jewelry, all of it meticulously planned. But as anyone who has ever navigated the high-stakes world of celebrity knows, preparation alone is never enough. There are always variables beyond control: security protocols, media narratives, and, most importantly, human error. As the night approached, the tension in Hollywood was palpable. Red carpets are not just paths to entrances. They are stages, arenas where reputations are crafted and, sometimes, destroyed. For Meghan, who had already faced intense scrutiny throughout her career and her time in the royal family, this particular red carpet carried added weight. It wasn't just another appearance, it was a statement. It was a declaration that she belonged in the upper echelons of Hollywood elite, that she could navigate the same spaces as the most celebrated actors, directors, and producers in the world. And yet, even as she prepared, there were cracks forming behind the scenes. Sources later revealed that some members of the organizing team were hesitant about her attendance. There were whispered doubts. Would her presence overshadow other stars? Would her history in the media, sometimes controversial, sometimes celebrated, distract from the awards themselves? Could a single misstep trigger headlines that the organizers weren't prepared to manage? These were questions that lingered silently in the background, unseen by the public, but critically important in shaping the night's events. By the time the evening arrived, the red carpet was a spectacle in itself. Hundreds of photographers lined the barricades, cameras poised for the perfect shot. Fans gathered behind security fences, phones held high, eager to catch a glimpse of their favorite celebrities. Reporters prepared live feeds, ready to capture every detail, every reaction, every fashion statement. In that moment, the world outside the event was alive with expectation, buzzing with anticipation. And at the heart of it, Meghan Markle was about to make her entrance. But before she could even reach the carpet, before the cameras could catch her smile or the flashes could capture the sparkle of her gown, an invisible barrier awaited her. Security teams had their protocols, lists, and orders. The very same teams that were tasked with ensuring smooth arrivals were also empowered to deny entry if necessary. And in that power lay the potential for conflict. One miscommunication, one overlooked detail, or one intentional decision could change everything. As Meghan's car rolled up to the front entrance, her team coordinated quietly, ensuring that every move was synchronized. They were aware of the security checkpoints, the timing of the arrival, and the photographers' positions. Everything seemed in order. She stepped out of the vehicle, poised, confident, aware of every camera on her. The first flashes went off, capturing the elegance of her posture, the precision of her styling, and the aura she carried naturally wherever she went. It was the image of a woman who knew her worth, who understood her presence commanded attention. And yet, behind the calm and poise, there was an undercurrent of tension. Those familiar with Meghan's history knew that this night was not just about appearances. It was about perception, control, and navigating a world that could be as hostile as it was glamorous. She had faced scrutiny from the media, judgment from the public, and pressure from institutions both in Hollywood and beyond. But nothing could have prepared her, or anyone, for the moment that would define this evening, the instant when the list-checking security team would turn her away. Inside the venue, staff hustled to manage arrivals, ensuring that the cameras focused on the right people, that the timing of each entrance aligned with broadcast schedules, and that the flow of guests remained uninterrupted. Yet, even in the carefully orchestrated chaos, there was room for human error, interpretation, and influence. Lists could be misread. Instructions could be misunderstood. And in the shadow of those human variables, Meghan Markle's arrival became a test of every assumption, every protocol, and every expectation about who belonged and who did not. For Meghan herself, there was a mixture of anticipation and determination. Every step toward the entrance was measured, intentional. She knew that she was walking into more than an awards show. She was walking into history, into the eyes of millions who would watch, judge, and comment. But just as she approached the security checkpoint, that carefully constructed world of glamour and expectation began to fracture. A sudden pause from the security team. A few whispered words exchanged among personnel. A glance at a clipboard. And then, the first hint that something had gone terribly wrong. The question for the organizers was clear. Was this a simple oversight, or was there something more deliberate at play? Was Meghan Markle being denied entry because of a miscommunication, or because someone wanted to make a statement? The lines between administrative error and intentional snub are often thin, and in the world of Hollywood, perception is everything. A single moment can ripple outward, shaping headlines, influencing social media narratives, and altering reputations overnight. And so, the scene was set. Lights, cameras, anticipation, and tension converged on the entrance to the Golden Globes. On one side, a woman who had navigated fame, scrutiny, and public life with precision and resilience. On the other, the gatekeepers of one of Hollywood's most exclusive events, armed with lists, protocols, and the authority to dictate access. The collision of these two forces would define the night, ignite a media storm, and leave the world asking questions that no one could answer in real time.